Welcome to today's masterclass. Imagine we're walking into a Cambridge exam boardroom. The case on the docket? Conquering Set Texts 2025 Section 2 for AS and A-Level Arabic. Specifically, we're putting together a bulletproof defense for Suleiman al Hakim and Fajr al Kadhib. If you've been staring at past papers feeling like you're on trial without a lawyer, don't worry, we're in this together. Today, I'm your training architect. Let's look directly at what the Cambridge judges, examiners, demand and learn how to present an argument that absolutely commands those top marks.
Okay, let's dive into this. Let's look at the stakes of this case. Did you know this specific section is worth a massive 15% of your total marks in Paper 2? Literally 15%. That is a huge chunk of your grade riding on just one section. It's exactly why we can't just casually stroll in, read the texts, and hope for the best. We need a tactical, airtight approach. We have to get inside the mind of the principal examiner. To secure a unanimous verdict for those top marks, we're going to follow an examiner's mindset blueprint. Think of this as our trial strategy. 1. Core cognitive domains. 2. Technical methodology. 3. Critical analysis. And 4. Examiner warnings. Let's build the case.
Section 1. Core cognitive domains, the 3 pillars.
So, when the examiners review your paper, they're actively hunting for 3 distinct domains: knowledge and understanding, analysis, and evaluation. It's incredibly common for students to act like junior attorneys who just summarized the plot of Suleiman al Hakim, thinking that showing knowledge is enough to win. But look at this breakdown. It's an even 33% split across the board. So successful candidates have to demonstrate equal competence across all 3. Raw knowledge? Well, that just gets you a seat in the courtroom. But analyzing how the author constructs meaning and evaluating those choices, that's what actually wins the case.
The theoretical foundation here puts it perfectly. Top-performing students exhibit connected, conceptual understanding transferable to unfamiliar contexts. Wow! What a fascinating way to phrase it, right? Basically, this means simply memorizing the text is useless if you can't adapt on your feet. You have to understand the core themes and character dynamics well enough to apply them to essay prompts, or let's say cross-examinations, you've never even seen before. It's all about building those cross-topic connections.
Section 2. The technical methodology. Process over product.
So the crucial point here is the method mark strategy. This is about earning marks by demonstrating the correct analytical process and framework. You see, in a high-level literature exam, the process matters just as much as your final answer. The examiners are playing detective. They're looking at exactly how you arrived at a conclusion. Are you following a systematic, logical approach, or just jumping straight to a gut feeling? The Cambridge syllabus strictly emphasizes evidence-based reasoning. Show them your work. To guarantee we hit every single one of those method marks, we need a reliable problem-solving loop. Think of it as a legal procedure. Deconstruct, solve, evaluate. First, deconstruct. Identify the given information in the prompt and extract the exact parameters of the question. Second, solve. Break the problem down into logical steps using your textual knowledge. Finally, evaluate. Check your findings for reasonableness and make justified conclusions. This specific loop is exactly the mechanism examiners want to see mapped out on your paper. Let's pause for a quick second. Before we move on to closing arguments, I need to make sure your legal counsel feed is secured. Subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams right now and enable all notifications for our weekly masterclasses. Okay, gavel strikes, back to the case. When applying our loop to data interpretation for these texts, we're effectively extracting data, or evidence, from the literature. We interpret relationships like character motivations or thematic links and draw solid, evidence-based conclusions. Interestingly, the syllabus explicitly states that doing this develops actual professional skills. We're expected to apply correct formats, use precise literary terminology, and accurately evaluate performance. It's a highly rigorous standard.
Section 3. Advanced critical analysis. Weighing the evidence.
Now, what's really interesting about evaluation at this level is that top scorers relentlessly question assumptions. They never just accept the text at face value. They act like top-tier prosecutors. They identify limitations in an argument. They spot underlying assumptions made by the author or the society depicted. They even hunt for alternative interpretations, asking, could this scene mean something entirely different? And finally, they assess how these alternative views affect the overall conclusion. This is evaluative thinking at its absolute peak. A massive part of this high-level analysis involves comparative work. A weak analysis? Well, that usually stops at identifying basic similarities and common themes. It's safe, but it doesn't win. The syllabus insists we absolutely must go further to identify differences, contrasts, and nuance.
To pull this off effectively, you have to use comparative connectives to bridge these concepts, and, this is key, support every single comparison with concrete evidence from the set texts. Only then can we truly weigh their relative importance.
Section 4. Top 3 Examiner Warnings, Navigating the Traps.
We've combed through the Cambridge Principal Examiner reports, basically the judge's private notes, and these are the top 3 critical errors straight from the source. Number 1. Vague answers lacking specific details. Listen, examiners hate generalizations. It's hearsay. Number 2. Forgetting format conventions. Proper headings, precise terminology, and clear annotations are simply non-negotiable. And number 3, the most classic trap of all, generic answers that totally ignore the specific context of the question.
That third warning is a real killer. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between an answer that just floats away on abstract theory, relying on vague statements that could apply to literally any book, versus an answer that acts as an anchor. A high-scoring response creates direct links to the given scenario. It's the Peel structure in action: point, evidence, explanation, link. Every single point is anchored heavily to the specific prompt asked about Suleiman al Hakim or Fajr al Kadhib. If you aren't anchoring your answers, you are leaving major marks on the table.
Now, to avoid giving those vague answers under pressure, I want to share a surprisingly simple memory hack, the visual story method. When you're studying these texts, don't just stare at the words. Create a vivid visual story in your mind to encode complex literary concepts. Visualize the character's journey. Picture the theoretical framework as a physical building or a courtroom. Under the intense ticking clock of the exam room, your brain will recall a visual story far faster than a dry list of memorized bullet points.
We've uncovered the cognitive pillars, the analytical methodology, and the biggest examiner traps. We have built our case, but it all leads to one final question. How will you apply this visual story method to connect your knowledge to the unknown in your next exam? Remember, literature isn't just about what happened on the page. It's about the analytical framework you use to interpret it. Challenge yourself today with an unfamiliar prompt and see if you can argue it exactly like a Cambridge examiner would expect. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to Ace the Exams at Ace the Exams, click the bell, and comment below with your target level and subject. Thanks for joining this explainer, and I'll see you in the next masterclass.